Hello, Steve here. Welcome to Real Health. Who'd have thought health is about what we're eating? Join me on my quest to disseminate my go-to health regimen, the Health 44, my clumsy branding of eliminating 4 classes of food, introducing 4 classes of micronutrients. Bingo, bongo, health sorted. So thank you for your interest. Let's do this. Right, you've clicked on poo-pooing the Ascot trial. No, sorry, evaluating the Ascot trial. Both, it's a 2-armed trial, blood pressure lowering and lipid lowering arms. So I started in 1998, finishing only within a couple of years. 19 or so thousand participants, men, I think it was all men, between 40 and 79. And some of the advantages. The only advantage of the study is that it was passive on the side of the participants, where they didn't need to provide full diet reporting detailed questionnaires, because in my not so humble opinion, now those detailed questionnaires are very susceptible to people using vanity reporting, which is code for lying through their teeth about what they're eating, as if they're going to be judged by the reader of the questionnaire. So that was the only plus. Negatives we can nitpick, but these are the main negatives. And already those 2.2 regular listeners and viewers will understand that I'll say they didn't mention anything about micronutrients. So that's the other one, of course, with all these studies. And I'm not sure how far down the rabbit hole of these studies I'll do, but I'll do some of the main ones that we know about, or the large scale ones that have a great impact on guidelines, dietary guidelines and treatment guidelines. So with the Ascot study, with the blood pressure lowering arm, it was discovered that the ACE inhibitor and calcium channel blocker were preferenced over the beta blocker, amlodipine and perindopril versus atenolol. And why you'd have a combination of drugs and only one in the other one, with the possibility of adding like a diuretic. And it was discovered that the ACE inhibitor and beta channel blocker participants had better outcomes, 30-35% better. Over 2 years, that population group, that 35% difference may be interpretation, massaging, and a few guys dying not from the primary cause. They just had a heart attack from other causes, maybe. 36% isn't major, because within 2 years, I'm not sure how many people died in those 2 years. It would have been a few, considering the amount of participants or subjects, more like it, in the study, but wouldn't have been many. And mentioning 36% versus something like 7 or 10 deaths is insignificant. It's also it fits into the whole realm of statistical errors and that sort of thing, especially over 2 years. So that's the other issues. A 2-pronged approach versus a single-pronged approach with the with the beta blockers. Yeah, don't know about that. And also the lipid lowering arm of the study, administering statins, it was stopped after a short time, because we know that statins are contributing to lower cholesterol levels, It wasn't overt in the summary that I'll just to look into before I present it here. It wasn't. There was no numbers indicated, but as in deaths, because there is no deaths from high cholesterol ever. Combined risk factors they'll include in there, therefore cholesterol is bad. They already shoehorned in there that statins are better ever since the 70s, and they're not going to go against the grain. And also, I believe some of the pharmaceutical companies helped in funding. Not confidentiality, conflict of interest statements, that sort of thing should be looked at very closely. And it was unethical to not allow the placebo group of the lipid lowering arm to not give them statins, so they gave them statins as well. And to even have 1 year something statistically significant that's a bit too skinny in the duration. So yeah, that's a bit asinine. There's all this hubbub recently about taking statins. I'm supporting of the hubbub about statins reducing your cognitive levels over time, because there's a whole belief idea that we need to intake cholesterol to keep our cholesterol levels up in our physiology, our brain health, and our hormones to to keep those physiological systems healthy. And there's a bit of disagreement out there whether taking in extra cholesterol should impact that. If it's a bricks and mortar issue, which I believe it should be, you should take in more cholesterol, which I am. I'm not concerned about cholesterol numbers because I don't think we understand cholesterol numbers. The whole HDL, the LDL, the triglycerides, the type of LDLs, the dense the dense makeup and the fluffy makeup of the LDLs and whatnot. Yeah, we're shoehorning a lot of principles, like statins were thought of as important since the 70s. So and being funded by Big Pharma as well, partly, which also funds a lot of government grants and that sort of thing. Yeah, the lipid lowering arm is a shoehorning of already what you wanted to include, and also blood pressure medication. The people that had their influence in that would have had also their personal ideas thrusted in there. Don't you worry about that. So together with the only methodological the methodology used. I got there. It shouldn't have only been men; should have been women too, other races too. That goes without saying. They always poo-poo that side of things with the Harvard study, perhaps, and the nurses study, which I'll also cover, was very questionnaire oriented, and because nurses are scientifically trained, don't you know, they'll report better. Really? No, not a chance. Not a chance. Many yes, but many also vanity reporters. Don't you worry about that. I'd probably be one of them. Should I report this chocolate? No, they'll probably think I'm a fat shit. Yeah, sorry. Um, so with all the limitations in there with the time and two-prong versus single-prong and just assuming, it was pretty much an assumption over a year to statins are lowering lipid levels. Therefore, we can't continue this. No, that's not what a study is with placebo. And since those times of the early 2000s, where we should aim for a total cholesterol of under 150, and then they moved it to 125, and I think let's move it to under 100 because we're still getting cardiovascular events out there, which is over what we want. No, I don't think we understand. If my cholesterol level is over 500, and I get into my 90s and in my centenarian years, no worries. And I bet you there is some octogenarians and beyond and centenarians with the cholesterol levels of at least 300, which are still, well, the only time I've seen a centenarian is when they're a little bit demented and got adult diapers on and not very mobile. So that comes into it too. If I've seen a few centenarians on TV, perhaps they're still not that sprightly. So yeah, maybe we can do better in the longer we can live as well. So with that Ascot study example today, and all other studies for that matter, let's have a supplementing arm together with all the other studies. The nurses study, get half of the nurses on supplements. That's if they're compliant. Also, compliance with the Ascot study, the already 19,000 men. I doubt that even half of them would be compliant with their medication, knowing gents, middle-aged gents and beyond in the British Isles especially, they won't be that compliant. That's right. Compliance will be an issue. It's well known that many of the scripts that are given by a GP aren't even filled. Well, there is at least half that are filled, but how about taking them after you've bought the medication? Even less. There's a better compliance rate for our pets, for administering medication to our pets versus ourselves. And even worse, as a gut level evaluation for the British gents. The Scandinavian gents will be a bit more compliant based on their rule following type culture. And if I've categorized unfairly these populations, okay, but there's some limitations there. Okay, so I think I've made my point. If micronutrients were included over at least a 5-year period, you will notice, the study will notice, and therefore health guidelines will take note that supplementing these days is most important. So take it or leave it. That's my impression for today on the Ascot study. For those that are just one-off viewers and listeners, well, what I do advocate for here, sorry for the 2.2 regulars, My health regimen is the Health 44. You won't need to take statins or blood pressure lowering tablets if you understand the Health 44. Health happens when you take away 4 food categories: glutens, oils, sugars, nitrites, and then bring in those 4 categories of micronutrients: 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 2 essential fatty acids, which make up the 90 declared essential micronutrients. In a short while, all cured. Like for me, half a dozen chronic illnesses annihilated, half my body weight, pretty much, and you won't look back. So that is what I'm advocating for studies, large-scale studies in the future. There has been a late large-scale study which highlighted the importance of micronutrients, but it's not sexy enough, and it's just not even buried. It's just ignored. It's not sexy enough. We like to even blame ourselves for our genetic luck, blame ourselves for our lifestyle, our diet, into growing older, getting chronically ill, and dying before the average age. And that average age is going down. I've littered many a podcast with my forecasts on that. So hopefully until the next time, bye bye.